Hey y'all, my name is Queen Morgana, and Happy New Year! I was about to say welcome. Oh my gosh, I have no clue what's going on. Happy New Year, everybody! I hope you all enjoy your year, have had a good 2023, and have a better 2024. And also enjoyed your holidays if you celebrate anything at all. Now, before we get started with this recap, I just want to say thank you all for 70 subscribers. I actually was not expecting that at all. So it's been really fun. For those of you who decided to subscribe despite my janky audio and, non-scheduled uploads. It'll be more scheduled soon-ish when I'm done with school at some point. Well, soon-ish. But also 3,000 views. Like, there's 70 of you subscribed, but 3,000 of you viewed my stuff. That's really nice, and yes, made me happy to see that this morning. Well, last night. It's 3 a.m. when I'm recording this. But yes, alright, so here's what you all came for. This is the 1300s this is the 1300 through 1326 recap. It was supposed to be 1300 through 1325. I think I'm going to do it every quarter, but when I was recording 1325, I forgot that I was going to stop halfway. I forgot halfway through that I was going to stop at 1325, and I got really excited, moved on to 1326, and well, we all know how that ended. And if you don't know how that ended, you can go back and watch the last episode and then come back and then we recap it. So yes, but the next one, it'll be I'll stop at exactly 1350 and then we'll be on track. So as you can see on screen, this is the new Sims 4 family tree website. It used to be the Sims 4 plum tree, but that website is officially non-existent after 7 years as of December. It went out a few weeks ago, and this is the new one, My Sims Legacy Hub. This is the free version, so I can only go up to 300 members, but there's 2 different paid tiers. Whether or not I will be doing that is to be seen, because at some point I might just make a new account with more people if we reach the 300 section, because paying for a family tree is insane. Or I'll just switch to a different app, but so far I'm liking this one. And if I switch to a different app, I'd have to move everyone over, and I want to avoid doing that as much as possible. Right now it's not an issue because our family tree is so small because everyone kept dying. As you can see, we're just now getting to a lot more greens. Greens are their surviving members, but we have a ton of grays because so many people have died. We're going to give a quick recap, but before we recap what we've seen throughout these episodes, we have to think about the history. And the Smith family name, even though we're following, I guess, essentially the male bloodline being Williams, the Smith name actually comes from Matilda, who was the matriarch, and Matilda's family. So before we get started talking about anything that happened in the 1300s, in order to further understand some situations, we have to understand how Matilda ended up in the position she is in now. And that is because of this dear lad. Can I not open this? How do you... Yeah, I'm not doing that. Now, this dear lad here named Henry Smith, who is Matilda's father. Henry was Matilda's father, and he was a middle-class citizen, and everything was fine. He was really close friends with and eventually fell in love with a village girl named Beatrice, who her mother, and her sister were secretly spellcasters, and due to an accident, his best friend / lover Beatrice killed his brother, and he was young at this time. He was 14. So in a quick thinking act to attempt to protect her, he claimed that it was Beatrice's sister who was the witch and not Beatrice, which led to her sister and mother being killed, and Beatrice being pretty much ostracized until Henry kind of took pity on her and paid for her to, safely and comfortably leave Henford on Bagley and carry out a different life. And he ended up marrying Matilda's mother, who was previously betrothed to his older brother before his elder brother passed. Yeah. So what they had like a few sons, and then Matilda was the last born and only girl. She got really sick as an infant, and Henry was like, there's only one person who could even attempt to heal her. And so Henry he hired someone to track down Beatrice. They found her in a place called Glimmerbrook, and he pretty much begged her and tried to do whatever he could to convince her to heal Matilda of whatever illness she had, because she was going to die as an infant. And Beatrice eventually succumbed to his begging, I guess, and pretty much told him there'd be a price to pay. He assumed that the price would be him. Like, either he would have to give his life, or maybe she would force him to stay there away from his sons and daughter. He didn't really care about his wife. I mean, he didn't want her to like die, but like it wasn't a loving relationship. They were just carrying out their duties. But she was like, after the baby had been given the bottle with the medicine and the cure in it, she was like, well, I'm also giving her a curse. The same flames that my sister and mother were burned in for being spellcasters will haunt Matilda. So Henry spent a lot of time in Matilda's youth while he and his sons were alive to just making sure that Matilda stayed away from stoves and fire pits and all that. But unfortunately, Henry and his sons, one by one, all succumbed to their illnesses, leaving Matilda alone. And finally, we are where we start in the series, in year 1300. So year 1300, we start off with William and Matilda, and I guess I should give a backstory for William. William's an orphan, no parents, no last name. That's why he took the Smith name. He's poor, and Matilda was poor by proxy because, you know, her brothers couldn't work. She couldn't marry up because there wasn't a large enough dowry, and they all were just too sick, and she was single-handedly taking care of them for a while, and then they died, and there was no more money. So there's very, very little money. So she made William, who she actually did love. William's an orphan. Yeah, not much to say about that. It's really interesting because I had an entire storyline for adult William planned out, but considering he didn't survive to see it, doesn't even matter. Now, Matilda and William were young adults, and so they were about 20 years old in year 1300. Yes, which is why they're a little older for parents during this time. Now, the two of them had 4 beautiful children. They had Alice, and I'm going to be switching between charts pretty frequently, so please bear with me. I guess I should show what I'm doing, huh? Okay, so this is my Ultimate Decades info chart. This is basically, I just use this to have people's names, like the family members' names on here, and then it has like the year they were born, their statuses, year of death, age, life stage, and cause of death, just to make things go by easier. I will explain what's going on right here in a bit. But then I also have this timeline. This timeline is just what I use to keep track of like how many days have gone by and what's happening on specific days. And then I use this to update this if needed. And then this I use to update this. Now, this spread info chart right here is going to be a little different than it's going to be a little different than what you might have watched in all these previous episodes, and that is because I realized I messed up with this chart here only when I got to the 1320s, because I put each year's 3 days instead of 4. So while my aging is correct in game, it was incorrect on the spreadsheet. And yeah, so everything's corrected now and everybody's in the right place, but the info chart for like the first generation, or technically the second, the first couple of generations is messed up, but third onward is completely fine. Now coming back here, in 1301 they had their first child, who was also the only surviving child, Alice. Alice is currently, okay, well, she's been pregnant a few times, so she's just now a young adult, like she's just now 22. But it's, when we pick back up, it'll be 1327, so she technically should be like 26. But right now she's 22 because she's gotten pregnant 4 times. And I don't have pregnancy aging on because I don't like having pregnancy aging on for my other gameplays. If there was a way for me to put on aging specifically for Ultimate Decades Challenge, I'd do it. But no, I don't like my pregnant Sims aging. And it also allows me to cheat a teensy little bit. And if I have a chance to cheat, I'm gonna take it. So that's just me. She's born 1301. She's still alive. She's chilling. She's got kids. She's on her second husband. We'll get to that. The second daughter here they had is Catherine. Now, Catherine technically died. I skipped something. I'm just going in order. Okay. Second daughter they had was Catherine. Catherine was born in 1306, so there's a 5-year age gap between her and Alice, because Matilda and William were really struggling to conceive for a while. And she was such a sweetheart. She was adorable. She was the only child who got Matilda's brown hair, I remember. And she died as a child. Now, technically in game, she died at age 6 because she died on her birthday in year 1316. But she was actually supposed to be 10, which is what these parentheses mean. So I put parentheses to indicate the age they should have been. But next to the age they actually did die at, my fault. Once again, everything will be fine. It makes sense in my head. Do not worry. I promise I know what I'm doing this time. I said that last time and then I came back like, hey guys, everything's wrong. So she was born in 1306. 2 years later, they had Simon, this little boy. He was born in 1308. He was their heir and firstborn son. And then we get to 1310, where the beginning of the fall. So in 1310, the couple welcomed a second son, Pasco. He was the second heir, he was the spare, and he was born in 1310. But what also happened in 1310, a little bit after, was it before or after? Whatever, sometime during that same year, William, our very beloved, beautiful, amazing patriarch, wonderful husband. Well, he tried to be a wonderful husband. He was a wonderful husband, but Matilda was just weird. Wonderful husband, wonderful father, passed away. He had some pretty severe allergies to some mold exposure, but they don't really know what that was in the 1300s. So to them, he just got sick and died. But it was mold. They lived in an old creaky wood house, and the house was deteriorated because it kept catching on fire because Matilda has a curse of fire. So there were years where the house was just consistently on fire. And I'm not joking. Years where the house was just on fire at all times. And he eventually died, leaving Matilda to be the sole caretaker of her 4 children. Unbeknownst to her, the famine would come in 5 years. Now, let's get to the famine. Well, yes, let's get to the famine. The famine started in 1315. Everything was fine in 1315. Then 1316 rolled around. And in 1316, on Catherine's 6th birthday, even though she was technically supposed to be 10 because I messed up the aging, on Catherine's 6th birthday, she passed away. It was the middle of the famine, they were low on food, and she got sick. Something that she probably could have easily fought off if she just had the strength, but she had absolutely no strength because it's a famine and there was no food or anything hot or anything like that, and she just succumbed to it, and that's how she passed away. And then the next year, Simon and Pasco and their mother Matilda passed away from the famine as well, leaving Alice the sole survivor. Now, because I messed up my aging, Alice was a child when this all happened, but she technically was supposed to be around 15, not 15, she was supposed to be, what, 14? It was somewhere between 14 and 16 years old during the famine, so, but she was not, because that's my fault. But yeah, so she's the only surviving Smith, and Alice went to go live with her best friend and sister figure, Mary, who is a witch, and also the adoptive daughter slash cousin of Matilda's best friend, Agnes. I feel like I should have made a separate family tree just for Mary because they're so intertwined with the Smiths. But who were they? The Foragers? Is that their last name? I actually don't remember. I think I'm thinking of Spy X Family. I don't think that's their last name. I think I'm thinking of anime. But she went to go live with Mary, and even though she lost her entire family, and I'm not saying that this makes up for it, but living with Mary allowed her to, it kind of boosted her social status and allowed her comforts that she would have never seen and had never seen up to that point. And it's the sole reason she had a large enough dowry to even marry her first husband, Nawaf, because Mary had gotten married to a pretty well-off merchant, and Mary loves Alice just like a little sister. So she and her husband, RoccoW, saved up enough to, provide Alice with anything she pretty much wanted, and making sure that, the husband she found would be suitable financially for her, so she wouldn't have to go back to living the type of life she was born into. Very backwards from Matilda, where Matilda was born into some luxuries. She lost it all, and Alice had nothing and then gained it all after losing it all. A little confusing, but Alice has money now. She's not like a lord or Richard, or like she's not ruler of Henford on Bagley, but they're way more comfortable than she ever would have dreamed of being as a child. All right, Nawaf, this lovely fellow in gray here, R.I.P. Nawaf, our king. Nawaf was a knight. He was from a completely different village. He decided to settle down at Henford on Bagley. He came upon some land, and everything was fine. He was new to the village, so Mary and RoccoW decided to visit him and see what was up. And he was kind of being a bit of a drama queen at first, but then he saw Alice, and him and Alice hit it off right away. Mary kind of acted as like the chaperone mediator between the two, but the two very quickly fell in love with each other, and it wasn't long before they married and Alice moved in, and he completely agreed to take on the Smith name in honor of Alice and her family. She's explained, the situation, everything to her, and how much, being a Smith mattered to her to carry on her father's legacy and the memory of her siblings. She doesn't want that to just die away. And Nawaf completely understood. He completely supported her. He was like, I'll just change my last name to Smith. He also has no familial ties. I don't think he's an orphan. I think he just, once again, this is going to be something I brought into his adult storyline, but we never quite got there. But what it was, technically, that Nawaf's family did not support him becoming a knight. They're low-ranking, very, very low-ranking lords, could be very low-ranking noble if they had if they hit a gold mine with a nice marriage opportunity or something like that. He didn't want any of that. He wanted to work hard for what he had, and his family was kind of falling into shambles anyways. Like they had fallen from grace a while, like during his father's time. So he ran off and joined the Knights and climbed the ranks and had nothing to do with his family anyways. So he just, he traveled and eventually settled in Henford on Bagley and worked as a knight. So he actually went to work and, did rounds around the village, protecting the village and making sure the Lord and the Lord's family was all right. Knight things, all that good stuff. Training the young ones. Yes. So I'm thinking when Amir, Stephen, and or Nasir grow up, I have a squire mod, and children can be a squire for like $1 a day. And I think I might do that. That has nothing to do with what I'm talking about right now though. But unfortunately, Well, no, let me talk about their kids. So Alice and Nawaf got pregnant pretty much right away, and they had a baby boy who Alice named William in honor of her father. William unfortunately was born stillborn and, you know, passed away the day he was born. Well, yeah. A few years later, in 1323, they had their second son, who was now heir. His name is Amir. He's a toddler now. Don't know how old he is. Oh, I have this. I can find out how old he is. Okay, toddler Amir here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. He's like, I don't know, he's like 2 or 3. I don't know. It starts at 4.5, right? 4. I don't know. He's a toddler, is what I'm trying to get at. And then the year after that, they got pregnant again, had their third son, Stephen, who is also alive and just aged up into a toddler, I believe. And then in 1326, wait a second, when did you die? Nawaf? Yes, in 1326, Nura and Nasir, they're twins, and Nura being their first daughter and Nasir being the fourth son, were born. And the day before, 3 months before the twins were born, Nawaf unfortunately met an untimely demise. He was in the lobby with the boys, Amir and Stephen, and an animal snuck into the house. It caught them all off guard, and Nawaf didn't have time to grab his sword or his bow and arrow or anything like that. He was just completely focused on making sure the boys were okay, and he protected them. He warded off the animal, but unfortunately it cost him his life. Now, some of you have been saying that this doesn't seem like something that Nawaf would fall to, you know, and something fishy is amok, perhaps. At least that's what some of you were saying in the comments. Now, I don't know if that is or isn't true, but as far as the family was aware, it was a very freak accident, and very untimely, very unfortunate that Amir actually probably has memories of that because he was a toddler when it happened. Stephen probably doesn't remember because he was an infant, and the twins wouldn't be born for another 3 months, so like the next day. Very, very unfortunate. And Nawaf is in the afterlife with his dear son, William. Yes. All right. And now, last but not least, young Jacques. Jacques is actually the trader who came around pretty much every day to sell his goods and everything. He got along very well with the family. He would stop and talk to Nawaf and Alice if he had extra time. And when he saw that they were really busy, especially once Alice, had kids, he would help them out while he waited for them to grab their coins and simoleons and stuff like that. So he would, he'd play with the kids a little bit, or he'd pick up the manure. He was very friendly with the horses and just kind of helped them out when he could. He would have been a good friend, but they were all just so busy. They barely had time to invite him over and form a true friendship, or at least Nawaf didn't. Nawaf was usually at work when Jacques came over, but Alice had formed a pretty nice friendship with Jacques. And when Nawaf died, Alice quickly realized that there is no way she'd be able to pay their taxes, work the farm with the 3 animals, and single-handedly take care of 4 children. Not even children who can care for themselves. They all need her, especially the twins who they need to feed from her. She can't just leave out food like she could for the toddlers. And the only other man she knew who was of essentially similar status financially and kind of socially was Jacques. She knew Jacques was single, she trusted him, and they had a good enough friendship where she thinks that they would be relatively comfortable. And when she was done mourning Nawaf, she invited him over and gave him the proposition, and he agreed. He had been wanting to check in on his friend since he heard Nawaf had passed, and he himself was mourning his friend. And so at the end of 1326, these two married, and that's where we left off at. Now, I'm not quite sure how old Jacques is. He's older than Alice. I know that. He's a few years older than Alice. I don't know if they're gonna have children or not, or whatever the case may be, but we'll see. A part of me wants to get like 1 or 2 kids out of him, but I'm not sure if I would consider them Smiths, like from Alice, or if they would be craftsmen from Jacques. Now, the only reason Alice does not have the craftsman last name is because I think that she would hold on to the Smith name even tighter after Nawaf's death. Also, I looked up like 1300s like marriage rites and rituals and stuff like that. And because surnames didn't exist at this time, not in the same way we think of them now, surnames didn't really become a big thing until later. Most of the time people took the literal name of their father or their mother, depending on the society. But in European society, it was their father. So their father or their craft. So like Smith technically would come from like blacksmiths, actually. So I should have made one of a blacksmith if I was going to name them Smith. Or like Amir would probably be like Nawaf's son, like son of Nawaf, or Williamson, or Jacques, like his kid's last name would probably be Jackson, because son of Jacques, son of Jack, something like that. Yeah. But most of the time the women apparently kept their last name. It didn't become a common thing for women to take their husband's last name until later. For the sake of my sanity, I'm going to typically have my women take their husband's last name, because I'm not keeping track of all these people without that, or in like bloodlines and things like that. I need to. But for the sake of Alice and the storyline and just how she's growing into this young woman, she recently turned into a young adult. She's not a teenager anymore. I think that she would just have so much more pride in herself, her accomplishments, her family, and her bloodline, that she'd be like, Jacques, you don't have to take the Smith name the same way Nawaf did. You can keep the craftsman name, because he's a merchant. So I imagine his family became merchants from crafting, you know, or maybe Jacques earned his position that way from his crafts or something. But she says, I'm not sure, you know, if we ever have children, will our children ever take the craftsman last name or the Smith last name? That could be something that's decided if that time ever comes. But my children are remaining Smiths, and so am I. Jacques had no problem with it at all. He still has no problem with it. He just wants Alice to be happy. He truly, they don't love each other romantically or physically or anything like that, but they consider each other good friends. And Jacques, almost in a similar way to Mary, not in the brotherly way, because that would make this entire thing weird, but in a similar way, is protective of Alice because he sees just how good and strong of a person she is. And if doing something as simple as like marrying someone, especially during a time where like he probably had a lot of people down his neck, like, when are you gonna get married with the craftsman name, the merchant, the company, blah blah blah. This probably also kind of helped shut them up a little bit, so I think it was beneficial for both of them. But yes, other than that, not much happened. Here's the timeline. I realized most people show this off in like their episode 1s, and I never did. But I don't really think that this timeline is really that important to y'all. It's really just for me to know like when things are happening, and when things happened. So like Nawaf, I know he turned into an adult on the first day of 1326, but like I put D's next to the names of people who die on their birthdays, because then I know exactly which age they are, because because here you can see like the sim days and the length and the age. So I know, so the reason I knew that like Catherine, for example, was 6 years old is because she aged into a child, and the first, like, you're a child at age 6, And even though it's technically like, oh, they died as toddlers, to me, I feel like they died like on the cusp of being whatever life stage their birthday was on. So instead of me being like, oh, she died as a toddler, technically she died as a child. So that's just how I'm keeping track of it. Not sure if anybody else is doing it. I don't think I've paid that much attention. Or if I hadn't, maybe they just hadn't explained. I'm watching a lot of people's Ultimate Decades challenges. It's so fun because everyone's so different. Haven't even got to this rule. I have no side households because I was like, I'm just gonna make side households, and I almost lost the challenge immediately. I almost did not make it past generation 1. I almost ruined it all. But yes, this is their complicated family tree. I'll move Jacques around if they ever do have kids, because they don't have to like add the kids down here. But for now, he's going on top of Nawaf. Says widowed here because Alice was left a widow. Only reason I didn't have Matilda as a widow and had them as married because she never remarried. So yeah, Alice was left widowed by Nawaf. And yes. But yeah, that's all. I don't have an extensive family tree, so this is going to be an extremely short video of just a quick overview of everything that just happened so far. Yes, also Alice's hair looks a little different in here because I gave her a bit of a young adult makeover. She looks the same, most of her clothes are the same. I just changed her hair and gave her like a little bit of lip stain and like changed one or two of her outfits, but quite literally everything else is the same. So yeah, I can't wait to see what the rest of the family gets up to, especially as they grow up, and I desperately want and need side households just in case something crazy like this happens again. Like it's I see a lot of other simmers or other Ultimate Decades people, and they have like 3 or 2 side households. So like when their heir dies, they have multiple spares. And like I just said 5 minutes ago, almost lost the challenge immediately. Like almost didn't even make it to the 1320s. I almost lost it all in 1317. So we'll see where that heads off. Y'all let me know what you think. Should her and Jacques try for at least 1 or 2 kids just in case none of Nawaf's kids make it? You know, who do you think's gonna make it? What do you think's happening? Especially with Nawaf's death. Does it seem suspicious to you? Is it suspicious? It could just be a natural freak accident. Who knows? But y'all let me know. Once again, thank y'all so much for watching. Thanks for 70 subscribers and 3,000 views. Oh my god, I still like can't believe it. And I'll see y'all next time. Bye.